Where is the primordial fiend celestial? Hanju asked calmly. He began to ponder about the nine-headed divine spirit's intentions. The nine-headed divine spirit replied, I don't know either, but you can create one and advance the great Tao immeasurable calamity, allowing the endless era to arrive as soon as possible. Hanju frowned and asked, what is the endless era? Our past can be written off. I only hope that the endless era will arrive as soon as possible so that I can leave the mortal world. Hanju narrowed his eyes. Why are you in such a hurry? You shouldn't be like this with the time you've existed, right? The nine-headed divine spirit said, I won't hide it. Although Father suppressed 2 transcendent existences, there are 2 others. One of them is bloodthirsty and is about to awaken. Once he awakens, he will clean up the living beings of the chaos and help Father restrain the development of the living beings. Hanju asked in surprise, why? The nine-headed divine spirit smiled. The great Tao world will be freed when the endless era arrives. He'll be busy developing his great Tao world. How can he have the time to care about the chaos? Then why didn't your father directly stop him from slaughtering all the living beings in the chaos? Because he knows his limits and only kills existences above the sage realm. Father might care about his reputation, that's why he doesn't suppress the chaotic mighty figures. He can make use of this. The nine-headed divine spirit's tone contained a hint of anger. Hanju frowned again. He thought that he could wait for the great Tao calamity and the endless era after talking to the ninth chaos. He didn't expect another Tao creator to appear. The nine-headed divine spirit continued, I can't say much regarding that existence. Otherwise, I'll be discovered. You can try your best to choose a primordial fiend celestial candidate as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be the true primordial fiend celestial. After all, the primordial fiend celestial is a legend. You only need to give him the name of the primordial fiend celestial. In addition, this child has to have powerful potential to withstand the providence of the great Tao calamity. The primordial fiend celestial needs to inherit the great Tao immeasurable calamity and shatter the blank domain in the endless era. The blank domain is actually the primordial rule that binds the chaos. With that, the nine-headed divine spirit hurriedly ended the dream. Hanju opened his eyes and asked in his mind, is what the nine-headed divine spirit said true? 50 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. It's true. Who is the Tao creator that the nine-headed divine spirit mentioned? There is no such karma. It cannot be deduced. Which Tao creator is bloodthirsty and will slaughter existences above the chaos sage realm? 2 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? TSK. It was stronger than the formless transcendent deity and the chaotic consciousness. Hanju secretly chose to continue. A message appeared in front of him. Immeasurable destruction, venerable Shurtian, early stage Tao creator, chaotic deity, first chaos inheritor, ninth chaos personal disciple. It was still the early stage Tao creator. It seemed that the suppression of the ninth chaos was very strong, preventing the 3 Tao creators from breaking through. Hanju focused on the primordial fiend celestial. Han Huang was a primordial fiend celestial, but too many monstrous figures had appeared in the same era. For example, Tao Sovereign and Jiang Jueshi. They would both be Tao creators in the future. One had to know that the former primordial fiend celestial had not reached the Tao creator realm. Therefore, it was not impossible for the young primordial fiend celestial to be chased by such a prodigy. In fact, in terms of potential, Han Huang was definitely a unique existence, but the other top 10 geniuses all had great providence. Hanju thought of Tao Sovereign. The future great Tao Sovereign had contributed to creating the endless era and was conferred the title of Great Tao Sovereign. Should he make Tao Sovereign the primordial fiend celestial? Hanju felt that it was feasible. This way Han Huang would also be protected. Han Huang was too straightforward. He didn't have as much experience as Dao Sovereign. He would probably be used by others if he stirred up the great Dao immeasurable calamity. Forget it, there was no hurry. I want to know how long until immeasurable destruction Venerable Shurtian descends into the chaos? 2 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. About 1.1 billion years. What was the hurry? Hanju rolled his eyes and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Soon, he entered cultivation again. In the crimson sky, the endless sea surged. All sorts of huge bones undulated on the sea. An ancient pagoda suddenly descended. Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi, Lao Dan, and Hani stood on it. Hani carried the world-piercing divine origin bow on his back as he scanned the surroundings. He asked curiously, "What is this place?" Zhao Xianyuan smiled. "This is the recently famous transcendent great Dao world of the chaos. It's as endless as the chaos, but it's suppressed by the chaos, causing this place to be desolate." Hani frowned. "Since it's desolate, why are we here?" Loudon stroked his beard. "That's right. In the past, there were only 3,000 great Dao and 7 supreme rules. There were only a little more than 100 great Dao sages before the divine might heavenly sages rise. It was enough. However, more and more great Dao sages appeared after several eras of geniuses. The great Dao of the chaos became insufficient. The ultimate god of punishment did not allow all the great Dao to be privately occupied. Therefore, the mighty figures targeted the other 2 great Dao worlds." Han Yi snorted. "Your own power is the real thing. You can easily lose yourself by using the power of the great Dao." Loudon looked at him and smiled. "You're really far-sighted. In the past, Life Lord Huang Zuntian suffered this loss and lost his position as the eternal peak." Dao Sovereign's expression turned ugly. Zhao Xianyuan saw through his thoughts and changed the topic. "Hurry up and take action. I heard that the Northern Chaos Holy Lord has descended in advance and repelled many mighty figures. This fellow is probably not greedy for the Great Dao, but the Great Dao Providence Divine Authority." Jiang Yi nodded and controlled the ancient pagoda to advance. The world-piercing divine origin bow on Han Ye's back suddenly vibrated, causing him to frown. Loudon looked at the divine bow and smiled. "Looks like this treasure also reacted. There will be a huge battle next." Dao Sovereign stood up, his robes fluttering. He said proudly, "It's been a long time since I've encountered a match." Time passed. More than 2 million years passed. Detected that you are 40 million years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and open the ultimate origin world in the chaos. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. Hanju silently chose the second option. This time, the system was very reliable. The rewards for both options were the same. Currently, he had already accumulated 8 great Dao fragments, 6 primordial fragments, and 5 creation spirit stones. The previous creation spirit stones were used to give birth to chaotic fiend celestials. He kept this item now that all the chaotic fiend celestials had been born on their own. The creation spirit stone could turn anything into a living being. Hanju felt that it could be useful in the future. As for the creation heavens chosen, he did not use it immediately. There was no hurry. Hanju was very satisfied with Han Yao's performance. This kid was worthy of his 10,000 years of teaching. He vividly displayed the characteristics of the conquest heavenly star. Hanju looked at Hongling beside him. Her cultivation level had been increasing. He suddenly looked forward to her entering the fray. However, he didn't know if he had to rely on the ninth chaos to attain the Creator Lord realm or the primordial fiend celestial to break through the blank domain during the endless era for the time being. Hongling felt his gaze and opened her eyes. She asked, "Father, what's wrong?" Hanju didn't expose her. The father and daughter chatted for a while before continuing to cultivate. Hanju had a sudden thought and asked in his mind, "I want to know what my daughter Hongling will be like at her peak?" 100 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Gasp. So impressive. Continue. Hanju suppressed his excitement, and his consciousness entered the illusion. He was in the blank domain when he opened his eyes again. Unlike reality, countless universes were floating in the future. Every black void was dotted with countless stars or the vast Great Tao worlds. Hanju looked up and his mood subconsciously brightened. Endless era! It was more imposing and vast than the chaos. The chaos was like a cage in Hanju's eyes after attaining the Great Tao Supreme Realm. Soon, a mighty figure descended. Her body shone with a strong light. 7 Great Tao worlds stood under her feet, beside her, and above her head. Even Hanju had to look up to her. Hongling seemed to be floating in the void. She had her hands on her back and was wearing silver divine armor. Her lotus dress fluttered like divine colors. Her long hair scattered under her crown like a waterfall. The surrounding 7 Great Tao worlds showed that she was supreme and unparalleled. How holy and domineering! Hanju finally saw the glory of the primordial Emperor Star. He suddenly saw 2 figures in front of Hongling. They were billions of feet tall and were also domineering. However, they were like stones at the foot of a mountain in front of Hongling, extremely tiny. Hong Yi, Hong Yao. The former wore black armor, while the latter wore silver armor. One was black and the other was white, like 2 sides of yin and yang. TSK, this girl still listened to me. She really took in these 2 brats. Hanju laughed in his heart. He was very satisfied with Hongling's attitude. At least, this girl was obedient. He was really worried that Hongling would be jealous of the 2 of them and not tolerate them. The more Hanju looked at the 3 of them, the more he liked them. Emperor Star, Killing Star, Conquest Star. It was a match made in heaven. He wondered where the 3 of them were going. Hongling suddenly stopped and raised her right hand, then slowly clenched it. In an instant, the blank void above Hanju's head tore open. Hanju looked up. In the spatial crack was the image of a Great Tao world. There were countless living beings guarding the edge of the crack, ready to attack at any time. Hongling's voice was indifferent and dignified. Here! Hong Yi and Hong Yao shouted at the same time, causing the spatial crack above Hanju's head to fluctuate violently and tear wider. The illusion shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and didn't know what to say. He had spent 100 quadrillion years of his lifespan. He still wanted to see what would happen next. However, although this illusion was short, it revealed a lot of information. Hongling seemed to control great authority in the endless era. She could slaughter a Great Tao world just because she wanted to? TSK, it was unknown how long it was in the future, but there were actually so many Great Tao worlds. Hanju felt a sense of urgency. There were only 5 Tao creators now, but the future was uncertain. Hanju's heart skipped a beat. No! He had to hurry up and cultivate. It would take him a long time to catch up to the 9th chaos in terms of cultivation. Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating. Heavenly Tao, outside the 33rd heaven, Han's sacred palace. Han Qinger smiled and said, "Fifth brother, you still haven't attained the great Tao after so many years. You're a little embarrassing to our Han family." The middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table was Li Yao's son, Han Yunjin. Facing his sister's teasing, Han Yunjin said helplessly, "I don't have the talent of my brothers and sisters, so I naturally can't attain the great Tao. However, my descendant, Han Yao, didn't embarrass the Han family." Jiang Jueshi, who was sitting opposite Han Qinger, smiled and said, "Han Yao is indeed powerful. He has Junior Huang's potential. His Majesty, the Heavenly Emperor, likes him very much." Han Qinger glared at him, causing him to laugh helplessly and not say anything else. Han Yunjin asked curiously, "Why are third sister and senior Jiang here?" It had been a long time, but Han Yunjin and Han Qinger were still quite distant. Although Han Qinger acted like they were close, Han Yunjin couldn't help but wonder what it was. The difference in cultivation between the siblings was great, so they rarely walked around. Han Qinger smiled and said, "I want to ask if there are any prodigies like Han Yao in the Han family. Your second brother wants to take in a disciple. He doesn't have any children, so he can only find one from your niece." Han Yunjin was moved and looked happy. He was a heavenly Tao sage, after all. He had traveled the chaos and naturally knew Han Huang's prestige. The current Han Huang could be considered a top mighty figure in the chaos. He could cover the ages with one hand. His mystical power was unimaginable. Han Yunjin said, "My Han family has many geniuses. Each generation is stronger than the last. Since second brother wants a disciple, I naturally have to choose the strongest one." Han Qinger immediately beamed and covered her mouth. "Fifth brother, don't disappoint third sister. I promise second brother." Han Yunjin smiled and nodded. He immediately sent a voice transmission. After making arrangements, Han Yunjin asked curiously, "Why does second brother suddenly want to take in a disciple?" Han Qinger spread her hands, indicating that she didn't know. Han Yunjin was deep in thought. He had also heard of the Great Tao world, but in his opinion, it was only the largest world. He could also create a world, but it did not affect his cultivation level much. It was already tiring enough to manage the Han family, so he naturally couldn't be bothered to create a world. Han Qinger snorted. "Second brother is simply crazy. He has already reached the peak of history and is even a divine punisher. He dominates a chaotic domain. Fewer than 5 existences can match him in the chaos. He's actually still busy cultivating in seclusion. In another 10 million years, perhaps the juniors will no longer remember him, just like father. In this current world, how many living beings still remember the divine might heavenly sage?" Jiang Jueshi smiled and did not refute or agree. The higher he stood, the more he knew about the depths of the chaos. Han Yunjin asked, "How is father?" "How would I know? He's always in seclusion. Only Sister Linger can always be by his side," Han Qinger replied. Han Yunjin fell into deep thought at the mention of Han Ling. Not long after, a sage of the Han family brought a handsome prodigy over. Jiang Jueshi sized him up with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He also wanted to choose a prodigy to enter his world. After 5 million years, the races in the mortal world changed. The heavenly Tao and the sun and moon spun. The eras changed and the chaos also changed day by day. Hanju opened his eyes and felt his dermic powers. The ultimate origin world developed steadily. There was already a vast world. The ultimate origin chi was endless and filled the world. The spirit chi was already far superior to the chaos in terms of cultivation. Hanju first entered the simulation trial and challenged 100 formless transcendent deities. He won easily. 200 formless transcendent deities. An hour later, Hanju had the upper hand. He was satisfied. After all, they were Tao creators. Every additional one was not simple. In any case, he was not afraid of anyone other than the ninth chaos. Hanju recalled that the ultimate god of punishment had sent him a dream request tens of thousands of years ago, but he was busy in seclusion and ignored it. He sent a dream to the ultimate god of punishment now. The dream was the chaotic void. The ultimate god of punishment immediately bowed when he saw him. Hanju smiled and asked, "The chaos has been stable recently. The number of great Tao divine spirits has increased greatly. The overlords and ancient giants all listen to you. Why are you visiting me in my dreams?" Hanju said, "Why don't you eliminate them since you're worried?" The ultimate god of punishment said, "I indeed wanted to do that, but I was stopped by a mysterious force and had no choice but to stop. I suspect that I was stopped by the Lord of Chaos. However, the Lord of Chaos clearly conferred me the title of leader of the divine spirits after the chaotic assembly ended. Why didn't he tell me bluntly if he wanted to protect those races?" He hesitated but didn't continue. Instead, he stared at him. Hanju said, "You're right. Perhaps it's not the Lord of Chaos." The ultimate god of punishment was moved. Hanju continued, "The next trend in the chaos is the primordial fiend celestial. He will stir up the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Transcendent existences are all waiting for the primordial fiend celestial to appear. What you have to do is find it and help it grow. You have to wait for the great Tao immeasurable calamity to arrive." The ultimate god of punishment asked in surprise, "Primordial fiend celestial? Isn't that a legend? Besides, why will the primordial fiend celestial harm the chaos?" "Creation after destruction. You just need to find it and let it develop." Hanju shook his head. The ultimate god of punishment pondered in silence. Hanju didn't point out that Han Huang was the primordial fiend celestial. He wanted Han Huang to prove himself. "I understand. Thank you for your guidance, Master." The ultimate god of punishment bowed respectfully. The dream ended. Not bad. Hanju enjoyed his current life very much. He didn't have to worry about the future. He paid attention to the races that the ultimate god of punishment had mentioned. There were already dozens of them, all scattered at the edges of the chaos. At first glance, they seemed to be developing from the edges inside. These races were rather strange. They didn't have bodies and their souls were shaped. They almost didn't have the appearance of humans. One had to know that the human race had the Kane Dao body. It was a body that the Dao ancestors studied Dao techniques and was the most suitable for cultivation and transformation. That was why Nivel used it to create humans and why they were conferred the title of the protagonists of the heavenly Dao. Hanju couldn't be bothered to calculate these races. He couldn't directly interfere even if it was a Dao creator's plot. Currently, everyone was minding their own business and was doing well. Wasn't that what he wanted? No one could cultivate faster than Hanju as long as he was given time. His gaze landed on the five, including Dao Sovereign. They were still in the transcendent Great Dao world. It was not only the transcendent Great Dao world. The consciousnessless Great Dao world was also fusing with the chaos. Humans loved to rear living beings of other races. They were used as labor or food sources. It was no different from Han Ye's actions. Hanju wouldn't interfere as long as he didn't kill him. Hanju was very satisfied with Dao Sovereign and the other three. They had good judgment. After tens of millions of years, Dao Sovereign and the other two didn't forget their roots. Loudon didn't scheme, either. The clone and the main body seemed to be independent. Hanju looked at the other disciples. Zhou Fan, Jiang Jueshi, Long Hao, Feng Liang, and the others were also doing well. The personal disciples of the heavenly Dao were also extremely powerful and insufferably arrogant. As for Han Tuo, Han Huang, and Han Qing'er, the first two were busy in seclusion. Han Qing'er traveled around with Jiang Jueshi. Han Ju teleported to the main Dao field and called Han Yu over. Han Yu was the leader of the 10,000 members of the Nether race. Back then, the Magus race was expelled by the Heavenly Dao. In order to cover her loss of the Magus race, Empress Hutu established the Nether race and gave them extremely strong talent, depriving them of their ability to reproduce. Until now, there were still only 10,000 Nether race members. However, they suffered no casualties because they stayed in the 100-peak Immortal River all year round. Han Yu was very excited to see Han Ju again. He had almost forgotten his appearance after tens of millions of years. He didn't expect Han Ju to still remember him. Han Ju first asked about his well-being, making Han Yu grateful. Han Yu immediately said, "Sect Master, the Nether race will follow you forever." To them, Han Ju was not only the sect master but also their father. However, the hidden sect was powerful now, so they couldn't get close to him. Han Ju immediately asked Han Yu to gather the Nether race. Half a day later, Han Ju took the 10,000 Nether race members into the Ultimate Origin world and sent them near the Life Fiend Celestial. He asked them to get along well and govern the Ultimate Origin world together in the future. The Life Fiend Celestial was currently the strongest Fiend Celestial in the Ultimate Origin world. It already had a great Dao cultivation. Most of the Nether race members were at the Freedom Realm and could assist the Life Fiend Celestial. The Life Fiend Celestial didn't dare to bully the Nether race with Han Ju watching. Furthermore, he had observed for a long time. The Life Fiend Celestial was gentle and not as ferocious as it looked. Han Ju returned to the third Dao field after instructing him. He returned to the Daoist temple after interacting with his Dao companions for hundreds of years. He looked at the universe of stars. The current universe of stars was filled with races and was extremely prosperous. Liu Bei had already nurtured a batch of disciples to govern this universe. Then, he returned to the third Dao field and cultivated in peace. After so many years, Liu Bei's desire for power had already calmed. He finally understood Han Ju's efforts. Only cultivation was eternal. Power could only bring short-term joy. Of course, the short term here could cover the lives of mortals. Han Ju watched for a while and lost interest. Although this universe of stars was created by him, it had already been devoured and fused by the chaos. The Providence was connected and no longer belonged to him. He should pay attention to the Ultimate Origin world in the future. Han Ju thought silently and closed his eyes to cultivate. In the blank domain, Han Huang meditated quietly. There was nothing in all directions, not even spirit chi. The ultimate god of punishment suddenly appeared and sized him up. He did not disturb him. Han Huang sensed his aura but did not open his eyes. He continued cultivating. Primordial Fiend Celestial. Where should I find it? The ultimate god of punishment thought silently. His eyes suddenly lit up. Wasn't Han Huang the most suitable person? Because Han Ju was a chaotic Fiend Celestial, no living being would think that Han Huang was a primordial Fiend Celestial. How could a primordial Fiend Celestial be born from a chaotic Fiend Celestial? However, the primordial Fiend Celestial did not exist. According to Master, he could choose one. Should he let Han Huang take over? No! The ultimate god of punishment said, Han Huang, I'm looking for you this time about the Great Dao Calamity. Han Huang opened his eyes and asked, Great Dao Immeasurable Calamity? Please speak. The Great Dao Immeasurable Calamity is already brewing. It might take 10 million years or hundreds of millions of years. We have to find the primordial Fiend Celestial before it arrives, the ultimate god of punishment said slowly. He had naturally figured out his bloodline with his current cultivation. He was the primordial Fiend Celestial. It was precisely because he knew that he was higher than the chaotic fiend celestial that Han Huang wanted to cultivate diligently. Although he had obtained the eternal peak in the chaotic assembly, he had not left the 10 absolutes behind. He was still considered a prodigy of the same level by the various factions. How could he tolerate this? Han Huang was naturally arrogant as a primordial fiend celestial with greater talent than the chaotic fiend celestial. Han Huang said, "Stop looking. I'm the primordial fiend celestial." The ultimate god of punishment was moved. The primordial fiend celestial is the key to the great Tao immeasurable calamity. You can't pretend. I'm looking for you because I hope that you can help me find it. Han Huang stood up and stared at him. I am the primordial fiend celestial. I know the danger you're talking about, but I am. Stop looking. The ultimate god of punishment was silent. Han Huang was even more furious upon seeing his attitude. Could it be that you don't believe me? The ultimate god of punishment smiled bitterly. I believe you. That's all for now. Cultivate well. As for the great Tao immeasurable calamity, there are no signs yet. With that, he vanished. Han Huang meditated as his eyes emitted a purple light. Great Tao immeasurable calamity. Perhaps this is the opportunity for me to break through to a higher realm. Han Huang thought silently and clenched his fists. He actually began to look forward to the great Tao immeasurable calamity. A world had already been established in the depths of his soul. There was still a long time before it turned into the primordial chaos. He was vexed by this. Now, the great Tao immeasurable calamity had given him a trace of hope. Han Huang did not notice that wisps of yellow qi appeared behind him. They were surging and condensing into a human form. He suddenly turned around when he realized that something was wrong. A head surrounded by yellow qi appeared in front of him. The two were less than half a meter apart. This head had disheveled hair and a face like a crimson ghost. Its eyes were sunken and had no whites. Its pupils were like snakes and scorpions as it stared at him. Han Huang did not panic and asked calmly, "Who are you?" The yellow head smiled sinisterly. "Primordial fiend celestial, are you willing to stay in the chaos?" Han Huang narrowed his eyes. "You should have been spying on me in the past 1,000,000 years, right?" "That's right. I can help you if you want to create the primordial chaos." "Oh? Then what do you want?" "Like you, I also have a world that needs to be created, but I'm suppressed by the chaos and can't do anything." Han Huang asked upon hearing the yellowhead's words, "What can you do?" Han Huang smiled, "You have to prove your strength first if you want to cooperate with me." Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from Han Huang's body. His robes fluttered violently as nebulous primordial qi coiled around his body like a hurricane. He was insufferably arrogant. The yellow head slowly retreated and smiled. As expected of the primordial fiend celestial, such an aura is considered invincible among the great Tao Supremes. Han Huang snorted. The yellow head began to condense yellow qi. Flesh and blood stretched out from under the head, producing a body at an extremely fast speed. Han Huang waited patiently, also wanting to see the other party's strength. He had not fought to his heart's content ever since the chaotic assembly ended. Primordial fiend celestial, your potential is impressive, but how many geniuses have there been since ancient times? You've only cultivated for tens of millions of years. To me, your life is like a breath of time for mortals, the yellow head said meaningfully. Han Huang frowned. Let's fight first. Millions of years passed. Detected that you are 50 million years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and open the primordial chaos in the chaos. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the system function. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. A chance to upgrade the system function. This was new. It appeared in the second option. Hanju looked satisfied. The system was sensible now. He directly chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the system function. Please choose a system function to upgrade. Hanju thought for a moment and chose the creation heavens chosen. The creation heavens chosen is already top-notch and cannot be upgraded unless you surpass the ultimate origin fiend celestial. Indeed, the creation heavens chosen was related to the ultimate origin world, so the ultimate origin world's great creation was higher than Jiang Juesher's great creation of the chaos. Hanju thought for a moment and chose the simulation trial. The simulation trial was extremely useful as it allowed Hanju to judge the strength of his enemies. Do you choose to upgrade the simulation trial? Yes. Simulation trial has begun to upgrade. He actually needed to wait. Hanju focused on the Great Tao fragment. 9 Great Tao fragments had been gathered, but he didn't need a Great Tao mystical power. It was better to keep them in case they were useful in the future. 9 Great Tao fragments could form a Great Tao mystical power. What about 99? Hanju was looking forward to it. Since he had nothing to do, Hanju decided to rest. He looked at Hanling. Hanling opened her eyes and waited for Hanju's instructions upon sensing his gaze. This girl's cultivation had already reached the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm. How? Have you been troubled by cultivation recently? Hanju asked. Hanju smiled. The Great Tao of extreme origin I taught you contains the truths of the 3,000 Great Tao. You can absorb the rules of the 3,000 Great Tao of the chaos and derive them yourself. Hanling was enlightened and immediately stood up. Father, I want to go out. Hanju smiled and nodded, sending her out of the third Tao field. Hanling immediately jumped out of the chaos and arrived under the 3,000 Great Tao. Speaking of which, this was the first time this girl went out alone. Hanju was a little worried and stared at her. She had few opponents in the chaos with her cultivation level, but Hanju was afraid that she would be deceived. This was Hanju's most precious child. How could she be seduced by a thief? Hanju paid attention silently. Hanling absorbed the power of the 3,000 Great Tao and quickly attracted a mighty figure's attention. However, that mighty figure quickly retreated before he could say anything when he saw Hanling. It turned out that his elder had once gone to the chaotic assembly. He remembered Hanling's appearance and immediately sent a voice transmission telling him to scram. He couldn't provoke the heavenly sage's daughter. Not long after, the ultimate god of punishment came and talked to Hanling. The mighty figures and giants did not dare to disturb him. Hanling chatted with the ultimate god of punishment as she absorbed the power of rules. She displayed the attitude of a junior facing the ultimate god of punishment, making him very satisfied as he praised her. 100 years later, Han Huang and Han Tua also came to see Hanling. It was naturally lively when the siblings gathered. At the same time, words appeared in front of Hanju. Simulation trial successfully upgraded. It could derive the enemy's future cultivation limit. The detection range covered a Great Tao world. Hanju's eyes lit up in surprise. In other words, he could copy the cultivation levels of everyone in the chaos and fight wantonly. He could also fight with their future selves. Hanju was in a good mood. He immediately copied the entire chaos and started the simulation trial. He directly challenged all living beings and asked the system to set the future limit of their cultivation. Wow! It would have been fine if it was not set up, but more than 20 Tao creators and more than 100,000 great Tao sages appeared. The chaos was still impressive and contained many impressive geniuses. Most of these Tao creators were familiar to Hanju, but some he had never heard of. He had really misjudged them. Hanju began to focus on the battle. 5 minutes later, he destroyed all living beings in the chaos. No pressure at all. Hanju began to fight the formless transcendent deity alone. He discovered that the formless transcendent deity's limit was not much stronger than now. Just like that, Hanju was immersed in the simulation trial. Tens of thousands of years later, Hanling ended the absorption of the power of rules and prepared to leave. She suddenly saw a figure in the distance absorbing the power of the great Tao. She took a closer look and saw that it was Laozi. Hanling had learned about Laozi from her father and knew his true appearance. He was a top mighty figure of the chaos. Laozi felt her gaze and nodded slightly as a greeting. Hanling bowed and prepared to leave. Young friend Hanling, there's something I want to say, but do you think I should say it? Laozi's voice suddenly floated into her ears.